Welcome back to the Pair Program. I'm your host, Tim Winkler, alongside my co-host, Mike Gruen. Mike, fun fact, today is Employee Appreciation Day. So as a boss, as a leader, what do you do to show your appreciation for your employees, for your team?
That's a great one. That was not what I was expecting. No, I mean, it depends. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of public praise and trying to do some things like that. I do think it's funny that the engineering culture versus like other cultures where like sometimes like positive feedback, like those types of shout outs are sort of seen as like popularity contests and other things. So I also, and it's well received. This like it's probably an HR nightmare, but we frequently have like a channel where it's actually like shout downs, where it's like we're calling each other out, but like we all have a good laugh about it. Like, oh, somebody like, oh, I dropped this production database, and like everybody just owns it and laughs about it or whatever. So that type of stuff. But in terms of like individual appreciation, I mean, I have one-on-ones. I really try to focus in on positive stuff that they've done, and then when someone's gone above and beyond, you know, the typical stuff of, you know, giving people days off and sort of just recognizing that. And one thing I learned early on, this actually came up earlier this week. It's funny that you're asking. The idea of like, hey, why don't you take Friday off? Like when I was at my first job, my manager would do that all the time. I'd be like, why? I'm just going to sit around and like watch cartoons. Like I have no plan for Friday. How about if I take like today's Wednesday, I'm not going to be able to put something together in time for Friday. So like that idea of like, rather than saying take Friday off, sort of being a little bit more like, hey, why don't you tell me what day next week you want off, take it off, not a problem, but like give the person an actual opportunity to make plans. So it's not just like, thanks, I guess I'll just sit at home and do nothing.
Right. Yeah.
And then maybe even the team, a couple people, and we used to do team events and all kinds of things. Like when we worked in an office and it wasn't full remote, there was a lot more team events. It's one of the things, I think it's one of the biggest struggles with a virtual team, especially with multiple time zones around the world that I currently have. It is a struggle to do some of those sort of team building things. I'm curious. I just went off. We probably have a whole episode about it.
Yeah, no kidding.
What you guys are all doing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we definitely, you know, as far as like one-on-ones is kind of like providing that constructive feedback or positive feedback. But I think last year we did just like Starbucks gift cards, and it honestly was a huge hit. People were like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever." But if I was gonna, you know, get creative on something, I'd say like, you know, it's Employee Appreciation Day, like no meetings for anyone.
Well, so we have a no meetings Friday rule already.
Hey, there you go.
On my team. So that's how I'm able to record these.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Now you just expose yourself. Cool. Let's chat a little bit about today's episode. So today we are diving into the world of AI and national security technologies. We're focusing particularly on how advancements in these areas are kind of like boosting our defense mechanisms against growing threats posed by AI generated media and deepfakes, which is becoming a pretty critical issue as these deepfakes become increasingly more and more sophisticated. So for our listeners that maybe aren't up to speed in this domain, you know, AI generated media, are technologies that are capable of creating or altering content with the aim of deception, often, you know, undetectable to the average user. So this is what, of course, makes this a big concern for national security. Now let's introduce our guests who are, you know, front and center at tackling these challenges. So first up, we have Ben Colman, who's the co-founder and CEO of Reality Defender, a startup building the leading platform dedicated to detecting and countering deepfakes for enterprise and government users. Ben has a background in cybersecurity and data science, working with some top companies like Goldman Sachs and Google. Alongside Ben, we have Wes Blackwell, managing director at Booz Allen Ventures, which is the corporate venture arm of Booz Allen Hamilton. Wes brings a wealth of experience investing in over-the-horizon technologies that enhance our national security. And we'll point out that Booz Allen Ventures is an investor in Reality Defender. Wes and Ben, thank you both for joining us on the pod.
Good to be here.
Let's kick things off with a fun segment called Pair Me Up. So here's what we'll go around the room. We'll spitball a complimentary pairing of our own. Mike, you lead us off, and I will follow your lead.
Yeah, definitely. And trying to keep it a little cheery rather than doubling down on scary. We're going to go with springtime and bike repair maintenance, just sort of getting, so it's that time of year, start thinking ahead for the spring and sort of dusting off the spider webs and everything that's growing on the bicycles and bring them in for
what's the maintenance? When I think of bike maintenance, I'm thinking you're putting some oil on the chain. What's beyond that? What do you got going on?
I mean, checking all the gears, making sure that they can go through all the gears. It's checking the brakes, just cleaning it up and getting it ready to go. Some of the stuff I can do myself, but little plug to REI. My wife got a part-time job recently at REI, and we get access. So I'm taking full advantage later today.
Let me send you a list. I got a list of some items too. I know that employee discounts is pretty solid.
Yeah. Do you have an e-bike? That's
a little more tech.
No, I don't have it. Yeah, definitely. No, my dad has one of those. I was amazed. It looked awesome. But yeah, no, I haven't. We're still old school pedals and human all.
Human powered. Nice. Good stuff. I dig it. Yeah, it's that time of year, right? Starting to shake the cobwebs off of the winter and getting outdoors. I dig it. So I'll jump in. I'm going to go with Chattanooga, Tennessee and moon pies. So that's actually where I'm calling from for the episode today. So my family and I, we split our time between Northern Virginia and Chattanooga, Tennessee. We have a home out here. I didn't really know that much about moon pies until I got here, but come to find out that they actually originated in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They have a large factory here. And for the listeners that aren't familiar, I'm sorry for you because it's a delicious dessert. It's 2 round graham cracker cookies with marshmallow filling in the center, and then they dip all of that into like a flavored coating of like chocolate, vanilla, or banana or something. And they are delicious. And so then I was like, I got to do some research on moon pies. So I started doing some research on moon pies, and dates back to like the early 1900s was when they first came out. But they had a real unique connection with the working class in the South because they were pretty filling. They were pretty large. And then they're also very affordable. So the workers would pair an RC cola with a moon pie, and they would coin it the working man's lunch. I thought that was pretty interesting. so healthy. Yeah, you pair it with a nice RC cola. My goal, Mike, is I'm going to bring you back some. You got to give me some flavor requests, and I'll make sure you get a few.
I look forward to that.
Do you guys know what moon pies are?
Oh, I actually know. I know, but have you gone down the Dolly Parton Chattanooga rabbit hole and how much of a legend she is there?
I don't know so we're going to Dollywood for spring break with my brother, which is like Pigeon Forge area. But does she have a pretty big legacy in Chattanooga?
No. Yes. You should Google like Dolly Parton philanthropy. She's done incredible things with all of her music rights and stuff with she's literally cured types of cancer, or at least funded the cure. But one of the things I think was it a tornado, I think, ripped through downtown Chattanooga a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I want to say she personally rebuilt the majority of downtown.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm a huge Dolly fan. We have a 2-year-old daughter, and we signed her up for this book club, which is like Dolly Parton's book club. They send a free, just a plug out there for any listeners that have kids. They send a free book every month through your mailbox to just kind of be read to your kids. So she's awesome. Big fan, but I'll do a little more research and see if I can track down a couple of things to see in chat with it that are connected to her. But yeah, moon pies and Chattanooga, that's my pairing. Let's pass it around. Ben, quick intro and your pairing.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. This is Ben Colman, co-founder and CEO of Reality Defender. We're a 50-person team solving deepfake detection and based in New York City. I think mine are, young kids, 4 to 8, my 2 boys, and anything technical. I try and trick them into learning. They think it's a game, but when they realize it's learning, they tend to want to stop doing it. So a new favorite is an app called Synthesis, which they still think is a video game, but it actually tricks them into learning fast.
So, like Ben, I'm father of young children, and my 6-year-old boy is on a tear with Is It Cake? If you've seen that show, or another show called Bacon Ears. So my pairing is cake and architecture, and so I've literally been buying my son cooking or baking cookbooks, and he's been picking out random cakes that my mother-in-law and my whole family basically been cooking. So we've done like a tower, we've done a pool,
That's awesome.
Which is, by the way, there's no way you can make blue Jello taste good. But anyway, it's just really funny. But he's obsessed. Basically, Is It Cake? The premise of the show is these master bakers are given a task, and they try to make like purses. And so they'll make a purse, and then they'll be next to like 3 other purses, and you have to guess which one's cake. And so my kids pretend everything is cake now, and then I'll act like I can taste it or something.
Some of these cakes are insane. Like I've seen in a lot of these commercials where it's like, they're putting that up, they're making it.
The robot.
Cake. Yeah, it's
a robot commercial during the Super Bowl. My son lost his mind. He was like, "Oh," like, yeah.
They take a bite out of it. Yeah. My wife's she runs an online bakery. And so she does a lot of number cakes, which seem to be really trendy, but the level of detail of some of these cakes are absolutely insane. But yeah, quick intro on yourself too. Sorry, I think we bypassed that.
Sure. So Wes Blackwell, co-managing director of Booz Allen Ventures currently, and we are like you mentioned earlier, the venture arm for Booz Allen Hamilton, advanced technology company, really helping invest in technologies that help speed the outcomes for our clients, specifically the warfighters and federal government. So, but personal background, I've gotten to live my childhood dream multiple times over. First flying helicopters for the U.S. Navy for a decade, which really got my, I'd say, passion for mission, which led me to various careers in private equity, hypergrowth tech, and then ultimately to investing, where I started out as an angel investor and venture capitalist, sort of specializing in investing in dual use tech, which is what led me to Booz Allen Ventures 2.5 years ago when they launched their venture fund. And we're looking for someone that had a passion for mission and emerging technologies that can help serve those missions. And that's when I came across, and that's what also led me to a reality defender and Ben here.
Nice. Yeah, we'll get into more of that in the heart of the discussion, but I want to thank you guys again for joining us. We'll go ahead and transition into the heart of the discussion at this point. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to explore, not just the current landscape, but also the future trajectory of AI and security, the strategic investments kind of propelling this field, and then some of the real world applications that highlight the critical nature of these technologies. I'd love to set the stage here and kind of defining the current landscape. So we're in this AI race with China. First the news of DeepSeek not long ago, and then most recently, maybe more relevant for today's discussion, ByteDance, which is TikTok's parent company, have released their latest AI model, which is Omni-Human 1. I watched just a few of their demo videos that they had kind of released or leaked out, and just shows how scary realistic AI generated deepfakes are getting. And so, Ben, let's start with you. What are you seeing out there as the most common use cases with deepfakes, and then what specific industries and sectors are you seeing as most susceptible?
That's a great question. I mean, deepfakes are just a continuation of, I guess, kind of like a computer virus, in the sense of it doing a lot of dangerous things, while most of engineering and programming is for good. In the edge case of a virus, it's bad. And with generative AI, it's very much the same. The super majority of use cases for generative AI are taking us in a million incredible places. We're solving for creativity and efficiency and medicine and science. But in this very small edge case, the risks are very asymmetrical. And what makes it doubly dangerous, or I guess infinitely more dangerous, is the fact that my 4-year-old, my 8-year-old, I have 2 young boys. They're pretty good at computers. They don't know how to make a computer virus. You've got to actually have a computer science degree or at least some basic level of programming. But with generative AI, they have tablets and they download these apps because there's no real regulations on the apps. And they either put my face on their favorite, I don't know, superhero, which is pretty cool. Or they could equally do something incredibly dangerous that's only limited by your imagination. And so in a world where, these tools are available to everybody, I'd make it seem like, what if anyone could make a computer virus? And what if there were no regulations on it? What if platforms didn't have to scan for it? That's where we are with deepfakes and generative AI fraud. While the use cases for fraud are infinite, things like identifying non-consensual AI pornography, non-consensual AI child pornography, any kind of impersonation attacks, without the online platforms being required to scan for it, they're doing nothing. Even worse than that, they've, Facebook has fired their whole team for trust and safety. So we do want to solve everything, but we got to stay focused because we are a small business. And so folks have been on detecting AI-generated financial fraud and impersonation fraud. And so that means predominantly our clients are large banks, scanning real-time communications, scanning audio for call center fraud or account escalation or wire transfer fraud, scanning Zoom for similarly impersonation fraud, but also different types of HR interview fraud, either somebody trying to get someone else interview for them or worse than that, a state-level actor trying to get a job at a large company to then steal IP. And so Reality Defender focuses on detecting AI-generated audio, video, images, and text. And we either work with or we're piloting with the majority of Tier 1 banks, and then moving on to other organizations across government, intelligence, and defense.
Yeah, I think there's been a. Go ahead.
I did think.
Mike.
I was just going to say. I think you touched on it, but so a long time ago, I had a similar conversation with people about what was happening, but it was at the beginning stages. So it was really like state-sponsored actors are the ones who have to do this. But I think what's scarier is the cost curve that's been bent down, where now it's very accessible to a lot of people, criminals and others, to do this type of thing. And I think that's worth highlighting. Is like it used to be. Yeah, it wasn't as scary as it's getting, as that cost comes down and that it becomes more accessible to more criminals. I'm guessing that's what you're sort of getting at with the identity theft and we have your daughter and that type of stuff. Yeah.
Can you just kind of speak to a little bit of how the technology works? Not to get too nitty gritty here, but into the algorithms and the models that are used to kind of detect and stop some of the deepfakes.
Absolutely. Let me first say what we do not do. We don't touch or accept any personal data. And so a lot of platforms like Pindrop or Microsoft Nuance that have said your voice is your password, they may have been effective in marketing for the last 10 years, but with generative AI, you can replicate your voice or my voice or our faces using a few seconds of audio in a single image. And it's something that even the PhDs in our team cannot tell the difference with their own eyes. And so we don't take any what's called provenance-based approach because we think it can be replicated, just because, it is Ben's face, Ben's voice, Ben's social security number. That doesn't mean it's Ben. It just means that somebody has Ben's information. And so our approach is detecting AI itself. And so we're extracting different kinds of features out of the voice stream, out of the kind of visual, where it's image or video. And then using different kinds of transformer models to identify not only what our confidence level is on the AI generation or manipulation, but also which specific generative tools were used to make it. Now, as I'm sure all the listeners or viewers or followers, I guess, know, is that each time a video or audio, for example, this podcast goes through a device or goes through a platform, it changes its codec and its compression. You go on YouTube, you have, like 30 different options of what bit rate and what, quality, et cetera. Each of those change the dynamics of the file. They change the fidelity, they change the kind of contrast and the composite and everything else. And so what we're doing is saying, we assume that whatever you're seeing or hearing has gone through all these different kind of conversions. And so instead of doing provenance, which is yes or no, is it Ben? Is it Ben's face, Ben's voice, yes or no? We're doing what's called inference, which is taking a probabilistic view to say, you know what, given the quality of the image, the video, the real-time phone call, given the other attributes, we can be X confident that this is AI generated or manipulated. Now, naturally, the better quality the video or the audio, the better our models can react. But the good thing is, even with an incredibly poor quality image or video or audio, we can still demonstrate efficacy to give a call center worker or somebody who works in cybersecurity or fraud who has no technical ability an immediate confidence on whether or not the voice or the face is fraudulent.
Got it. Yeah. What, Wes, let's it's a super fascinating approach, and I'm intrigued to kind of peel back a little bit more. I've got some other questions that kind of piggyback off of the tech, but Wes, what was it that kind of brought you guys together? How was it that you guys identified the opportunity? Maybe talk through that story, and then, what was it about what they were doing that you thought maybe stood out amongst, maybe some of the other technologies that you were considering?
Sure. Well, a lot of the same problems, I'd say my team, the broader Booz Allen as well, we're thinking deeply about it, right? For those who may not know, Booz Allen is the largest provider of products and solutions in the AI space for the federal government. So, literally is what we do. And so, we think about AI across a few different stacks. So think like generative, secure, which Reality Defender firmly falls into, quantum, which is a new one for us, and then vision, which they also touch. And I'm forgetting one, but that's as we think deeply about those areas, it became apparent to us that this was a threat, right? We started really looking throughout the landscape, and I'll give credit to our tech scouting team, which is a team adjacent to mine that does, work for both clients and the firm, thinking deeply about emerging technologies and getting us smart in those areas. They'd done a top 10 report, and this is one of the areas that they highlighted, and they highlighted Reality Defender in the report. And Ben saw it and reached us and said, hey, this is amazing, because I think he got some good customer outreach from that report. And he actually reached out to our team. So it was a really cool illustration of these amazing teams of Booz Allen working together and the good outcomes that can come of it. But I'll say, just kind of echo some of the things Ben said. He's doing incredible work right now in, the fintech sector, financial services, for the biggest banks in the world who have, really, really high standards. And they are arguably the next most regulated industry in the world, probably behind the federal government. But there's, huge outcomes, based on the decisions. You think about a voice contract on a trading desk, or high net worth calling in to move money, but it's the same thing in the federal government. You think about from the battlefield, literally moving troops and machines that could have, lethal outcome, where, think about a commander that he mentioned, kind of this example is on a panel or something, and then they deepfake his voice calling into a tactical operations center to move things, right? And that's bonkers, all the way down to, the federal government is a large enterprise, right? There's a lot of things where money's being moved, where there's a ton of IT help desk where you could spoof voices and gain root access to our admin access to things. There's just a lot of consequence, and this is an emerging threat area, and we just we have to meet those threats for our clients.
Yeah, it's definitely seems like an area that's kind of front and center when you think about the threat, the potential of mass at mass scale, the impact it can have, the scale that it can have when something is put out there, and a bad actors, leading up this type of attack. I'm curious. One of the things that comes to mind when we think about this type of technology too is, ensuring that it's also used ethically. Is there certain areas here when you all are building your technology that you're thinking about this, Ben, and maybe this is discussing maybe this balance between like censorship and protection as well. Like that's kind of a fine balance.
Yeah, what's really interesting what we're doing is we do a lot of training and we build massive data sets, but we don't have the same challenges as more traditional generative AI companies are trying to replicate human knowledge or human decision making. And what's been really fascinating there is we've had a lot of data generation companies coming to us to effectively solve any potential data needs that we have. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've been on the wrong side of history in terms of deepfake generation. So thinking about companies like 11 Labs and Play AI and Respeecher, they were among others that were used to deepfake President Biden during the primary last year, deepfake, Fortune 500 leadership, deepfaking women. And they came to us and said, hey, we'd love to partner with you as a data partner in exchange for giving you early access to our models. So, on our side, we get to see the models early, get to ensure that our corpuses of hundreds of billions of both ad generated but also real media are properly distributed across all dimensionality, age, gender, dialect. We don't use races because it's limiting. So on Wikipedia, there's 32 or 64, maybe 128 races, but we use the Monk skin tone schedule developed by Stanford, which is a gradient of colors. It's nearly infinite. And we ensure that our data set includes really everybody, which is a tall order. So we have a team building the models, PhDs trained to build, whether it's audio or video or images or text. Then we have an equally important team building the data sets we use to train, tune, benchmark, retest. We're pushing out updates, every few weeks. So, I think the next question you're going to ask is this an arms race? It is absolutely an arms race, but I'd argue that's much more a feature than a bug. Much like all defensive software, whether it's cybersecurity or even physical, whether it's dual use or military, it is an arms race. I'd say why we are staying ahead of the challenges is that we're thinking to the future to ensure we're detecting things that we believe are theoretically creatable. I'm not sure if that's a word, but I'll use it. And ensuring our models can focus on them. So, we're looking for indicators of fakeness, which is getting better and better. We're also getting indicators of realness, which, hopefully are not changing. And realness is things like eye blinking, breathing, skin pigmentation change when your heart beats. But there are tall challenges there because things like, your heartbeat and how your skin changes, it is less effective to detect it based on your skin color. So for us, staying very far ahead, having a majority of our team being technical has really helped give us that edge.
I imagine it's also difficult because there's a difference between fake and then like touched up, right? Like there's lots of things where it is totally a legitimate video, but it just went through some amount of AI post processing to sort of clean it up or whatever. And I imagine that's also difficult. Like,
I mean, if you have an iPhone with multiple lenses, you'll realize that your phone is actually using local on device AI to be able to mix the background with the foreground. So you're absolutely right. Generative AI is a spectrum of the most incredible deep fakes to what's called cheap fakes to more kind of post processing, whether it's making me look less pale, maybe reducing the size of my chin, making me less skinnier. But right now our focus is on purely detecting indicators of any of those. As we continue to evolve our solution, we'll start looking at content and context and different types of features that get extracted beyond just is there AI or not.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it, and I crossed it off my list, the whole arms race thing, but the whole the problem here, just sort of getting it. If you could define a little bit what you meant by that arms race, that I think that would be helpful for some of the folks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As we always say, like the best product managers in the world work for the bad side. If you're a state level attacker, maybe you're in Eastern Europe, maybe you're in North Korea, maybe you're in other places, your budgets are unlimited. And your creativity really knows no limits either. And so, while we're trying to ensure we can protect everyday Americans, we're looking at the most complex use cases that we're constantly seeing on a daily basis where, perhaps we had a Fortune 10 company, the CEO's phone was compromised and the CFO got a WhatsApp message saying, hey, got to talk to you, but it checked out all the device ID information matched up and encryption, all that fun stuff. And then said, hey, let's get on a Zoom. We got to do a wire transfer quickly. And he jumped on Zoom and it's him or her in all their glory. And so that might not yet be something targeting, average people. My bank is not going to try and do that to me, or I'm not going to do it to my bank because I'm not valuable enough. Where that's changing though, is that when that previously cost, even last year, probably, I don't know, over $10,000 to set it up, and probably, $1,000 each time I want to do it just in terms of compute. Well, now you could do it completely locally. One of our things we're doing for our regulated clients is we'll join the Zoom, now with their permission, always with their permission. We'll join as their CEO and give them that wow. We'll use more language than the word wow. And, we've found that education only goes so far. We have to actually deepfake them and show them how easy it is. And one thing that, with Wes and the team support, we gave testimony in the Senate about, I think 4 or 5 months ago. And again, with permission, we deepfake Senator Blumenthal, Senator Hawley, Senator Klobuchar. Now, for them, we deepfake which baseball team they liked. Senator Blumenthal saying, I like the Yankees, but he likes the Mets, which, if you're a baseball fan, it might mean something. But, we had, U.S. senators, Judiciary Committee leadership, completely bipartisan in their thinking on the space. And so, in area of cybersecurity, as we say, cybersecurity is equal opportunity. We're all equally a victim, and it's phenomenal to see our elected officials, no matter where they are on the spectrum, absolutely align on the issue.
I kind of got a question. I know that we're trying to, peel back more on the technology side of everything, but aside from the technology, if you can maybe speak to some of the other approaches that are out there available to combat deepfakes, if it's from legal measures to public awareness measures, like I'm thinking of like digital watermarking or, blockchain for content verification, anything that you can put out there just as like a way to raise awareness and maybe give folks a little bit of a feel of like, okay, there are some things.
Absolutely. Before I say that, I'll kind of say the awareness on antivirus software. My parents can't read code, but they understand what a virus is, and they use different types of antivirus because they said it and they forget it. It is similar within deepfakes, especially over the last 6 months, where even the Harvard PhDs in our team cannot tell the difference with their naked eyes. And so as we think about what other solutions are available, again, we're doing what's called inference, which is probabilistic. Other side is provenance, which is deterministic. It's watermarking, it's fingerprinting, it's hash values, it's using the blockchain, or maybe non-distributed ledgers. Ledgers don't always have to be distributed anyways. We are members of C2PA, and there certainly is a world where provenance and inference solutions work together. But relying exclusively on provenance, like watermarking or fingerprinting, it presupposes that everyone's going to follow the rules. It says, hey, stay within our walled garden. Don't even look over the wall. There's nothing bad over here. And if we all, only used one tech platform, one tech device, maybe it would work. In a world where bad actors will either hack the watermark, or maybe they'll just upload it to Photoshop and add a new watermark. And, my parents say, oh, there's a watermark. And I say, no, watermark just says that it was uploaded at this time to Photoshop. Yeah. Or they'll just ignore watermarks completely. We saw different types of Russian misinformation that was deepfake in nature, or what looked like the explosion at the Pentagon, which was a diffusion-based deepfake spread on Telegram, which doesn't actually do anything with watermarks. And so in the theoretical world, we're yes to everything, but in the real world, you absolutely need a layered approach where you expect or you assume that actors are going to compromise something that supposedly claims 100% efficacy.
Mm. And I imagine that we have a whole healthy skepticism. I imagine there is a lot of this idea that there are things that are created outside of those walled gardens that are, mm-hmm. people would probably think are legit, that they are more likely to believe, even though maybe it's a
what's wild here is that we say deep fakes, then we say cheap fakes, and cheap fakes are things that I think the four of us would not find impressive. We'd say, oh, it looks weird, symmetry is off, there's weird hourglass or pixelation, or like the deep fake of President Trump and Elon Musk last week. He had 2 left feet.
Right.
2 left feet. Now that's potentially possible, but improbable. That went viral.
Right.
And a lot of people wondered what was going on there.
Right.
Or the challenge of getting a deepfake phone call, perhaps from my 7-year-old. I'm an expert, or I'm told, or I pretend I'm an expert in this space. But if someone calls essentially to be my son and saying, please Venmo money, $500, or else I might be in trouble, am I going to take that chance? I'm still going to send the money.
Yeah.
So it speaks to kind of the antivirus use case where it just has to work. It has to be ubiquitous. It has to be built into the solutions and the apps and the communication platforms that we're using every day. Just like spam block on your phone.
Right.
You probably don't know how it works, but you just know it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you may decide to take the call because it's, United Airlines saying that your data's been changed. Yeah, that's probably definitively spam, or it's a AI agent. But I would decide when I see something I don't recognize not to take the call. And with what we're doing right now on device, we see a very near future in the next 12 months where we'll be on phones. You might not know it's us, but you will get an alert saying from Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T or Deutsche Telekom that, hey, this voice appears to be AI generated. And you might say, you know what? It's Wes's AI agent. He's making a restaurant reservation. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that opens up some really new, exciting questions about how do companies or individuals want to engage AI agents? Mm-hmm. I don't want to take a call from an AI agent. I want that to be a data connection if I'm a bank or I'm a restaurant reservation system. Or what if my AI agent picks up your AI agent's phone call? Do we need to speak at the speed of a human?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we switch to a data connection only? So anyhow, there's a lot of new exciting things here. AI agents create, again, new worlds of opportunity for efficiency. Mm-hmm. But they also create another world of potential fraud.
Ben, our team's been looking a lot at AI agent security and what problems they create in order to, like, things like how do you do multi-factor authentication for machine-to-machine communication, things like that. But also,
we bank specifically right now. They say if it's an AI agent, they just want to block the call because they don't even know how to respond to it. Same with government institutions, but we're very close to a world where we embrace permission AI agents. They might say, "Hey, Wes is AI agent. Please ask Wes to jump on the call so he could give a real verbal approval of the wire transfer, and then pass it back to your AI agent." But I think we still have, at least a few years on that.
Ben, I laugh at your like, people don't need to know how it works. In naval aviation, in our past life, we used to call that PFM, pure magic. So it just meant you literally don't care how it works. It just needs to work.
Right.
That meant like you're never going to be asked to diagram what's inside that box. You just need to know to turn it on. Kind of thing. And that's where we need to be at. Yeah, we need to be at this. Like my parents are never going to, they're never going to understand like what model it is that they're defeating or whatever. Like they just need to know, hey, this phone call is manipulated. Do not tell this person anything sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was a post from Martin Casado at Andreessen Horowitz where he said that he's a cyber expert. And he said, I just got a phone call from my father. Said he was in trouble and needed money. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is available to anybody and it's happening to everybody. And that's because instead of having a Nigerian prince call you, one person to one, it sounds like it could be one to many or, zero to many, where it's just my system war dialing everybody, taking all the information off of the latest fraud online and trying to do this to your credit card company, your bank account, your airlines, or just to all of us. And it starts to get very scary very quickly.
Yeah, well, that's what we promised on this call. A scare for everyone to really relate to.
I've got a prompt for that. Then, Ben, tell them about I think it was Swiss and the Hong Kong frauds that went on that were real calls that had elements of deepfakes. You remember what I'm talking about?
The autocorrect one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we spoke to it's called like a top 10 non-US bank. And what they saw happen because they recorded it was, let's use Wes again. It wasn't Wes. We'll use Wes' example. Wes calls, authorizes his account for a wire transfer, goes through all the checks and balances, device, connection.
But it's real Wes. It's actually me.
It's real Wes. Yeah, Wes has, let's imagine he has, $100 million. Maybe he does. And then when he gives the account number, clearly the device, the connection is compromised, and literally a real-time AI agent voice says a different account number in Wes's voice, and then switches back to him.
Wow.
It's the challenge of
only on one side, so I didn't even hear it.
Wow, that's crazy.
So speaking about the challenges and the opportunities here, think about it right now. You get your bank account; they're checking you at the beginning of the call. They're not checking you 1 minute in, or 5 minutes in, or 10 minutes in. Anyhow, our goal and our opportunity is to make it as accurate as possible and as inexpensive as possible. So it's just this detection layer across all communications, any kind of impersonation, whether it's financial or identity or, just opening things online, dating platforms. I'll give you a hint. There are not as many girls as they say on the platforms that I teach my cousins who are, in college. There's a huge proponent of them that are deepfakes, and some of them are state-level actors, some of them are just good marketing by apps trying to demonstrate there's more women than men. But the challenge is everywhere.
Yeah, we see it as well in the recruiting world, actually. A lot of fake profiles popping up on LinkedIn, but then, they take it as far as, the application process and getting actual through interviews. To offers.
Yeah. There's, I have a friend at a large institution. They had someone.
I have a friend who's not me.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not. If you look, I'm not at a large institution. So, but no. But they detected.
I'm a big Suits fan, and like you remember the beginning of Suits, Michael's character, he literally was taking the bar exam for people.
Yeah.
Given how much it's computerized now and over video conference, most schools now have with the cameras watching you while you're taking the exam. Well, you could spoof the camera and impersonate somebody, whether it's on video or just taking an exam on the screen. So listen, I think that the good news is there are solutions like Reality Defender. The bad news is that a lot of organizations and people might not realize it until it's too late.
And I think to your point earlier, that's where I want it integrated into the platform I'm using for doing that video. I don't want if it's something else I have to add as a small business or whatever to my interview platform, as opposed to it's already baked into, let's say we use Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever, and it's just a feature that's in there. What was that?
Yeah, we'll stay away from any confidential items in the future, but what we will say is that your audience will start seeing it in all the platforms that you're mentioning. The key item is that it just works.
Right.
It's built into what you're already used to doing, and whether it's indicating potential spam, potential wrong information, or potential AI-based voice or face, you're going to react the same way, and you're going to get off the call or block the user or the action.
Yeah, I guess in closing, Wes, from an investor's perspective, where are you all looking at this and weighing it in comparison to other, kind of like national security threats from a technology perspective?
I mean, there's I mean, from that perspective, business is good. There's no shortage of threats out there, so I don't know if it's really fair to weigh them all against each other. I mean, for the person that's being hacked or deepfaked or the IT credentials given away or whatever the situation is, it can be impactful. And like Ben alluded to earlier, the folks on offense only have to be right one time kind of thing. And honestly, for the missions of national importance that Booz Allen serves, and that Ben serves as well with his products, like the bar for failure is pretty high. I mean, we cannot let our clients down. It's too important. So I think, I mean, being prepared for AI, like you'll notice earlier, I mentioned, quantum is a stack now. That's something that a lot of folks aren't thinking about. Booz Allen has one of the most advanced quantum practices in the world, and that's arguably still out there in some regimes, but it's going to be here, before you know it. And I'd say AI was that way a few years ago, and it's here now. And so, but folks are still just getting, to a level of, I'd say, appropriate sophistication.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have a scary quantum episode.
I appreciate
later.
you saying that, by the way, Wes, because I've been saying that for a while, and all my friends are like, no, it's 10 years, 15 years out. I'm like, I think it's going to be here faster than you think.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you.
Yeah, we are crafting one, actually, awesome. Mike, an episode on quantum. Some folks coming on the security side.
JD Dolney on our team, he leads our quantum practice. He's incredible.
All right, we'll have to take you up on that intro. All right. Well, look, you scared the shit out of us, Ben. We appreciate it. That's what we asked for. Let's close with a fun segment. We're going to close with our 5-second scramble. We're going to do a little quick rapid fire Q&A, some business, some personal. Mike, why don't you kind of lead us off, and then I will close out with Ben.
Sounds good. So you ready? Rapid fire answer. First thing comes to mind, and then we'll move on. So here we go. Sorry, my machine is acting up. All right, there we go. What is your favorite stage of startup to invest in?
Me? I guess
these are sorry. Yeah,
these are all for you, Ben. Sorry. Sorry, Wes. Yeah. Oh, crap.
I'll take that.
We look very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love investing, period, I'd say, but I'd say seed stage. I like the earliest. I really love it. That's the most alignment with founders at that stage.
What's your favorite part of the culture at Booz Allen Ventures?
I love our values. Like, I'd say unflinching courage. There's a real ethos to speak truth to power internally.
Cool. I think I know the answer. What technologies are you most excited about investing in the next 12 months?
Oh man, all over the map. We're involved in some really cool stuff. Everything from edge compute. I think I love anything autonomy. We mentioned quantum technologies, but I don't mean just computing. I mean sensors. I think there's a lot of really incredible stuff happening in that space. AI is there's no shortage of things happening on the AI front, as evidence of Ben's company. But I think the intersection of AI and cybersecurity is also something that Booz Allen is uniquely situated to do, and then that creates some other interesting conundrums for the government and the military that they have to solve, things like accreditation and things like that takes real expertise that I think there's a lot of opportunity. But really, I'd say in the current times, anything touching like lethality, modernization, efficiency, like those are themes that we're looking at.
Cool. Who is your biggest role model, and how do they inspire you?
Oh man. I'd say I have a mentor that's passed named Anthony Dutoto, who he's what popped to mind. He was just an incredible person at networking and seeing potential in people before they see it in themselves. And I think that's a real gift in encouraging people and then enabling the connections for them to do that. He did that for me, and I now try to do it for, I'd say, folks that allow me to pseudo mentor them. And so, I think folks like that in your life are just absolutely critical.
I was lucky enough to have someone in my life early in my career like that as well, and she also passed away. And but yeah, very similar. Saw a lot of potential in people, and really helped drive their careers as a mentor, and just great person. So that's awesome. What's a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
So many. Dallas Children's Cancer Fund is important. They did some incredible stuff on my wife's side of the family. Another one that popped to mind is the Third Option Foundation, which really supports the shadow warriors for our intelligence community when something bad happens to them. There's not a lot of great support for them, and just given the nature of their work. And I don't have some experience there. Those are two that popped to mind.
What was your favorite cereal as a kid?
I'd say Lucky Charms. We give it to our kids now. They lose their minds.
I just had a bowl of Lucky Charms this morning.
Never Lucky Charms.
We've had an empty Lucky Charms box floating around in the middle of our house because my 4-year-old daughter refuses to let us throw it away. It's that near and dear.
That's awesome. It's the time of year for it.
Yeah.
If you could live in any fictional universe from a movie or book, what would it be?
Oh, man. I'd say flying P-51 Mustangs in World War II I just can't imagine a more cool, like, golden age of flying, and imagine like cloud surfing in that environment would be amazing.
Do you have a celebrity doppelganger?
I'd say 30 pounds ago, I used to get Mark Wahlberg, but now I get like drunk Benicio del Toro.
That's great.
That's your deep fake. I like it.
There you go.
That's great.
Good luck, Ben.
Yeah, Ben, detect that.
Do you have any phobias or irrational fears?
Not really. But I constantly joke that I'm scared of heights because I think I was a pilot.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Oh, time travel. I'm constantly short.
There you
time.
go. That's I feel like it's the number one answer in my book. It's the right answer. And then finally, who is your favorite Disney character?
Wow. Disney character. We read a lot of Mickey Mouse books, oddly, in my house, but I wouldn't say they're my favorite. Oh my gosh, I should have a better answer as a children's dad.
I mean, don't forget, it's a pretty big. Disney owns a lot of properties.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Star Wars.
Pat McAfee. They own ESPN, right? Star Wars is definitely, like, if that's on the table, that's definitely
that's on the table.
I mean, anything. Chewbacca.
Right. There you go. I like it. That's a good answer. That might be a first. Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, Ben, you're up. You ready?
I should. Yes.
All right, let's do it. If a reality defender were an animal, what animal would it be and why?
Wow. Probably an owl. Owl stays focused. Tries to process everything.
I like it.
Can turn its head, I think, almost all the way.
Yeah,
around.
I dig. All right, we're going with owl. Final answer. What's a skill that every employee at Reality Defender needs to succeed?
Yeah, I think it's similar to every freshman college student now. It's not just taking, Lit 10, but they're all taking some level of computer science and, equally important, data science. So being able to use Python or, run a simple regression it's very similar to when we all got graphing calculators. You just had to be able to use it to do everything.
Yeah, I love that. What's a recent win at Reality Defender that made everyone celebrate?
We won a massive opportunity, it's called like top 3 global bank.
Wow.
Versus a much larger legacy provider. I think it spoke to the fact that we're not trying to do 100 things kind of well. We're doing one very, very narrow thing, but very deeply. And I think that that's part of the challenge of any early stage company. It's really hard to say no to people. But yeah, that's working well for us.
Yeah, what a vote of confidence. That's awesome. What are some of the top tech roles that you're hiring for today?
If someone has a PhD and they have any experience in data generation, data curation, computer vision, audio, deep learning, we want to talk to you. Even if we don't have a role for it, we still want to talk to you. What's interesting is that being a PhD or master's student, I wrote a thesis in undergrad. No matter how old you are, you should have interesting projects you can share. And publishing papers and submitting for research conferences is a phenomenal way to evangelize for really multiple futures in terms of careers. So we pride ourselves on recruiting people straight out of programs. We think it's fantastic. I just this last week I was in LA and I met a freshman from my undergrad, Clark McKenna, and he was already interning at a tier 1 generative AI company. I was like, how do you have time to do this? Like, why are you even here at this conference? Shouldn't you be in school like an hour away? It's really fascinating seeing how folks on the forefront of just academic work are using generative AI to just do so much more of everything. They're not writing, tweets or WhatsApp messages or emails. They're dictating it into an LLM. They might read it, do some light editing, but they're just doing so much more, much quicker. And so if I could, update my previous question, everyone in my company should be using generative AI to do absolutely everything. Now we want them to not only submit their work, but also submit their prompt. We don't want to edit the output. We want to edit the input and then regenerate the output.
Yeah. Well said.
We're the same at Booz.
It's awesome.
Well, Gen AI piece for sure.
What is a charity or corporate philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
My wife is a contemporary art curator, and where some of our worlds kind of intersect is around artists that use data to make art. For anyone in your audience who is, has a physics background or science background, you've heard of, different types of particle accelerators. What you might not have known is that a lot of them have artist residency programs. Someone literally goes and lives at CERN, in Switzerland. They are able to use the petabytes of data to try and create art. And I won't pretend that I fully understand all of the art, but I will say that my wife goes to much better parties than I think Wes and I go to. But it's really cool when you see really creative folks bridge the gap between technology and creativity.
That's awesome. I got to connect you with a founder that we had on here previously from a company called Peggy. It's a social marketplace that curates modern art. So yeah, contemporary art as well. Let's move on. So what is the first app that you check in the morning?
First app that I check in the morning. I'm a news junkie. I'm consuming news all the time. The worst days for me are the day after Thanksgiving when there's no news. The whole world kind of, at least the US, slows down a little bit. My app is Feedly. I have, a million RSS feeds. I will say LinkedIn is actually becoming quite a go-to place for me in terms of social media. I'm finding that I'm using it the way I probably used Facebook, 10 years ago. It's pretty interesting how the fact that you basically put out your resume on LinkedIn really limits a lot of the chaos that happens everywhere else online, because the idea of reputation actually is currency on LinkedIn. So I'd say Feedly and LinkedIn.
Cool.
Except for after Thanksgiving.
What's a tech pioneer? Who's a tech pioneer that you think would be the most fun at a party?
Most fun at a party. I'm a Google and Goldman Sachs alum, and there's a guy named Michael Aiello who is the most clairvoyant cybersecurity data science guy I ever met. He's able to take concepts that are incredibly complex and simplify them to you might get a CEO who has to make a decision but doesn't have the actual background. He can use metaphors or use, like, I don't know, the guy's shoes to explain to him super complex cyber security playbooks. So I'd pick Mike. He's brilliant, and he's just a lot of fun.
That's cool. What's the worst fashion trend that you've ever followed?
I had those pants where you could zip off the legs. I'm not even sure what they were called. They don't look good on anybody. They were even worse than cargo pants.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. What's a hobby that you've picked up that you would say is out of character for you?
Out of character. I have kids, and so when I go to the Container Store, I'm just like fascinated by things that can contain things. I'm not exactly sure what the goal is, but I'm always like, look at that hamper. Wouldn't that be? And my wife's like, what are you doing with that?
Bed Bath & Beyond. Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yeah, Bed Bath & Beyond. Yeah, I don't know if I would have time for that and Home Depot.
Container Store.
Container Store is like this magical place of containers. Trying to think what else.
I like that you made it into a hobby.
Okay, I should stop while I'm ahead.
I just picked up a new activity for the weekend.
There was a period when I was doing my office, I was going to the Container Store all the time, looking for stuff that I could put in here and put over there. I get you.
It's the place to be.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was gonna say Home Goods has been
I've heard about Home Goods.
I'm a big fan of Home Goods. Man, they just have everything. All right, last one. What was your dream job as a kid?
My dream job as a kid. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I wanted to provide a lot of things to a lot of people. I didn't quite know what that was. In grade school, I found a way to buy bulk candy and then sell it in little teeny bags. It wasn't not a metaphor for, something inappropriate. It's literally just candy. But
what a hack. That's great.
Yeah. I wanted to just sell things to people. I thought that people who can find things that they like can find things other people like, and if you make a business of it, it just seems a lot of fun, and also there's a lot of math involved, which I like. So
you sound like you had an entrepreneurial bug from an early age.
With varying levels of success. Yeah, my failures are not on LinkedIn.
Well, you're definitely delivering value in the masses right now. So I applaud the work that you guys are doing. Excited that you exist, and looking forward to continued advancement in this space. So thank you both, Wes and Ben, for joining us. You've been great guests. Excited for the future of the mission that you all are fighting for. So thank you for joining us on the pod.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Wes.
Yeah. Thanks, fellas.